Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this public meeting tonight. My name is Marla Hamilton, and I'm a wildlife biologist supporting this Trails Management Plan. Before we go any further, I will provide a brief technical orientation to this virtual meeting platform so everyone will be familiar with Microsoft Teams and how you can communicate questions to us during our time together. Next slide. This slide shows what you should be seeing on your screen, the event interface, and indicates where to find some key controls. The red arrow on this slide is pointing to the pause button, which is located at the lower left corner of your screen. This will allow you to stop and resume your view of the presentation at any time. Next slide. This arrow shows how you can adjust the sound volume, which is the megaphone icon also located at the lower left corner of your screen. Next slide. This arrow is pointing to where you can turn on closed captioning. If you would like to use this feature, this button is located at the lower left corner of the screen and a box icon with a double C in the center. Next slide, please. This arrow is pointing to a gear icon at the lower right side of the screen. Click on this gear icon if you would like to adjust the video settings. Next slide. Finally, we get to an important feature for this meeting, the question and answer function. This is how you can interact with us during and after the presentation by entering questions for the presenters. At the upper right side of the screen, shown here, a red arrow points to an icon in the shape of two dialog bubbles that allows you to turn the chat function on or off. Next slide, please. When the question and answer tab is open, you will see a purple bar at the bottom right corner of the screen, indicated here by a red arrow. Click on that purple bar if you would like to type in a question for us to answer during this meeting. Identifying your name is not required. You can also post a question anonymously. You can also ask technical questions about the Teams interface too. There are other MPS teammates on this call that may be able to answer your questions via the chat if you are having any issues. We are opening the question and action functionality now, so you'll be able to enter questions throughout the presentation. We will start answering them when the presentation concludes. Questions can be submitted via the questions panel box throughout the presentation. We may not be able to answer all of your questions today. If you have any questions or comments that we have not been able to address, please enter them on the Whiskeytown Trails Management Plan project homepage. All comments entered or mailed by July 8th will be considered. Next, I will pass it over to our superintendent, Josh Hoynes. Next slide.
Thank you, Marla. And thank you guys all for taking the time to join us tonight. I know that there's a million other things going on in everybody's busy lives, and I really deeply appreciate your willingness to join us and hear this high-level overview of the trail management plan here at Whiskeytown. I'd like to just take 1 second and acknowledge the team. You've met Marla. You're going to meet several other of our team members tonight. The staff and the team working on this plan has been great. I hope that as you guys have questions, they will jump in and help to answer those and really answer enough of the questions you guys have to help you comment and help us steer this trail management plan. Just for a little quick context on how we got here, we started public scoping on this plan back in 2017. That was before the car fire, and actually we had it at the regional office, preparing to do just this step at that time, 10 days before the car fire. And then the car fire happened, and we had to reassess where we're at, and really take a look at the balance of recreation and protection of our natural and cultural resources, and really how we spend our money. I hope you guys will see that throughout this plan. The current draft is available at the link you see on the screen there at the parkplanning.nps.gov WHIS Trails Plan. And we really want to hear from you. I just want you to know we're listening, and we want your feedback so that we can help steer this plan in the right direction for the foreseeable future. Next slide, please. This is just a high-level overview of tonight's plan. We're going to do an introduction of the plan. We'll go over the planning process, and then we're going to touch on project goals, alternatives, and then really jump into your role and how critical that is. And that'll be followed by a question and answer where I actually expect most of the dialogue to occur tonight. I think that we're here to help you guys make informed comments on this plan. Next slide, please. Next slide. So Whiskeytown is part of the National Park Service. You can see here on the screen what our purpose statement is. The importance and purpose of that is that Congress set Whiskeytown aside as a national park unit. There's only 423 national park units across the country. Only 423 areas, historic sites, battlegrounds, natural parks like Yosemite, natural recreation areas like Whiskeytown, that Congress set them aside, that they were of such importance that they should be managed by the National Park Service. So what does that mean? Well, this place, Whiskeytown, that we all know and love, that puts us on the same plane as the Yosemites, the Yellowstones, the Grand Canyons. And there's a lot of that comes with that, a lot of responsibility. This plan will help us balance the recreation needs. It'll help us balance the conservation, the science, the natural and cultural resource values that people enjoy now and into the future. It really is the heart, at its heart, the core of what we do in making decisions every day. Next slide, please. So just some quick historic context, get in the Wayback Machine with me. I did say we initiated this in 2017. We went out to you guys. This is our second time going out to the public with this plan. The first time was to help set the alternatives, to figure out what we needed to do. We had to do some reassessment of that after the car fire. It really burned 97% of this place. This is the worst fire in the National Park Service, all of them. That I'm aware of. 97% of this place burned. 117 structures were destroyed. That's everything from residences, offices, water and wastewater systems, our telecommunications. All of these things have had to be starting to figure out and put back online. We've spent most of the last 3 years putting Whiskeytown back in condition that we can be open and accessible. We've made a ton of efforts to make this place accessible, starting with the lake out. Probably 90% of our visitation comes to Whiskeytown, specifically for lake-based recreation. And so we started there working with our developed areas and working out. We have opened as many trails as we could immediately. And now we're at the spot where we get to talk about moving forward. We're in the space where we're looking at reroutes. We're looking at adding in the future additional miles and trails and really balancing this and making it the right size for Whiskeytown. At this point, I'd like to hand it over briefly for an overview of the planning process. Thank you, Lori.
Hi everyone, my name is Lori Domler. I am a project manager at the Denver Service Center, which is an arm of the National Park Service. We in Denver do planning, design, and construction for all the parks nationwide. So as the project manager, I'm in charge of moving the trails plan along, and I have a great team with me here today. So I'd like to just talk briefly about the different planning phases that we've been through. So you can see at the bottom, it says we are here in phase 3. Phase 1, as Josh mentioned, happened pre-car fire. This is where we established the goals and objectives of the plan. In this phase, we're really setting the scope. For those of you that are familiar with the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969, that is the planning process that we, the National Park Service, and all federal agencies follow to plan and assess the impacts of the actions in a plan. So I'm not using NEPA terminology in these slides because it's our own lingo, but for those of you that do know what NEPA is and the lingo we use, establishing goals and objectives is really establishing the purpose and need of the plan. When we do this, we think about, okay, what do we have here? What are our issues, and how do we establish goals? What are our issues? How do we get over those issues, the obstacles to meet our goals and objectives? So in this phase, we review the existing data we have. Maybe we have soils data, wildlife data, visitor use and experience information. In fact, we do have all of that. That's what we reviewed. And we also engaged the stakeholders. So if any of you remember back pre-car fire, you might have submitted some comments to us about what you'd like to see in the plan, maybe a trail connection, maybe there's a resource issue. So we take the public's comments into account when we're doing our planning. So that's phase 1, setting the framework of the plan. So phase 2, this is where we are reviewing our goals and objectives and coming up with viable trail routes that will meet the goals and objectives, or for NEPA folks, our purpose and need. So we typically arrange trail routes and ideas into a sort of concept plan, and there could be 2 or 3 alternative ways of meeting our goals and objectives. So those are called alternatives. In this particular plan, we only had one alternative. That's our action alternative. In every NEPA plan, you always have a no action. That's your baseline. So we use our baseline to compare our action alternative to see what kind of environmental impacts we may have from building trails. So no action and action alternative. There's 2 alternatives in this plan. So moving into phase 3, decision making. After we've come up with our alternatives, we analyze the environmental effects of those alternatives. We identify which resources could be affected. We have some unstable soils at Whiskeytown. That was a topic. Of course, we have threatened and endangered wildlife. That was a topic as well. So we evaluated the impacts on the visitor experience. So we put all this together in the draft plan, which hopefully you'll go to our website and see. And at this point, we are coming out to you to ask you for your review of the plan and any comments you may have. You can put those comments on our website, or you can also speak to us today or type in your comments today. So once we gather the public review comments, and we have approximately a month to do that, we will complete our consultation with agencies such as Fish and Wildlife Service and the State Historic Preservation Office, and then we'll finalize our plan. But that for the next 30 days, we would like to hear from you. Actually, we're halfway into the comment period, so for the next couple of weeks, we'd like to hear from you. Then after we've heard from you and do our close up our consultation, we'll finalize the plan. Next slide, please. So I talked about the purpose and need in NEPA speak. For you all, it's really goals, objectives, and alternatives. Next slide, please. So when we thought about what we wanted to accomplish in the trail management plan, our purpose and need, or our goals, were to protect the natural cultural resources through sustainable trail development and management practices. Some of the trails were made as, they were social trails, which is a user trail that's created by park visitors, and some of them were placed in unstable soils, or they just were damaged during the fire. So protecting natural and cultural resources through sustainable trail management practices is one of the goals. We wanted to increase the connections inside the park to other trails, and then also outside of the park to neighboring lands. And then also we wanted to create this comprehensive framework that would help guide us in understanding what mix of trails we need. Do we need more multi-use trails or more single-use trails? And then also maintenance, especially related to the post-fire conditions. We wanted to make sure we diversify the types of experiences visitors could have on the trail. And then also, we've actually been out of compliance for mountain biking and biking in the park. It was a use that generated over the years, so we wanted to make sure we formalized the routes that were designated for mountain biking, along with hiking and equestrian use too. Next slide, please. Not sure if, am I handing off to someone else here, or am I doing this slide? I'm handing off. Take it away, Brian.
My name is Brian Rasmussen. I'm a geologist with the National Park Service here at Whiskeytown. And I'm going to talk a little bit about project actions and visitor use management and our alternatives. And then a little bit about how we decide which trails we're going to work on first and move forward with this plan. So for our project actions, we'd like to restore the popular trails and reroute underutilized and unsustainable social trails. And if you're not aware what a social trail is, we in the Park Service design and designate trails for the community to use. But in some certain instances, the community or visitors come up here and establish trails of their own, and that we don't necessarily take care of them. So in some instances, we're going to formalize some of these trails. Certainly one of the major goals of this is to make our trails more sustainable in the long run. We also want to establish visitor use management guidelines for the trail system. And establish sustainable trail design standards for guidelines for management, special uses, and operation. While we're doing that, we'd like to integrate allowable bike types into the trail system, meaning e-bikes, mountain bikes. There's 3 types of e-bikes out there, and class 1 and 2 are permissible in the park, but class 3 isn't permissible because it goes too fast. So that's how we would integrate certain allowable bike types in. And we also want to establish new trail routes and connections to disperse users and offer a greater diversity of visitor experiences. And part of that is making our trail system more connective, not only within Whiskeytown itself, but to outside places such as BLM land on Swayze Recreation Area to our immediate east. Next slide, please. So visitor use management, it's really about making for an enjoyable, sustainable use of our trail system. And when I say enjoyable, I mean enjoyable that a visitor comes out, they want a certain experience out of a certain trail, and we want to be able to provide for that. Sometimes it's solitude, sometimes it's an easier hike, sometimes it's us wanting to preserve and protect the natural and cultural resources of that trail and surrounding areas. So on this slide, we have a trail monitoring program, and I've had a Whiskeytown trail use survey in place since 2017, 2018. And on the right-hand side of this slide here, you can see a list of our trails that are currently in use at the park. And what this is an estimate of how many people use any given trail. So for example, at the bottom is Whiskeytown's Falls Trail, aka James Carr Trail. And if you look at the graph, you can see that we get slightly over 18,000 visitors a year on that trail. Well, that's a lot of people on a trail. Conversely, you can go up to the top of the chart and see like Buck Hollow Trail, and we're getting 1,000 or 2,000 people on that. And so one of the things with trail use management is we want you to have a desirable experience here. What is too many people on a trail? Is 18,000 people on the Whiskeytown Falls Trail too many people? We don't think so at this time, but we think if we get many more people up on the Whiskeytown Town Trail, it might become too crowded and really compromise what we want for the visitor experience here. And conversely, you go to the Buck Hollow Trail, you see we get 1,000 or 2,000 people a year there. Well, we're not going to worry about overcrowding that trail. And what this leads to is we take visitor use management actions to try to preserve the experience on that trail and also to preserve the cultural and natural resources. And so example, say the Whiskeytown Falls Trail, we monitor it in 10 years, and now we've got 60,000 people on it. Well, we're going to look at that and go, wow, what is our visitor experience there? And is that what we want people to have? And so built into this plan are thresholds for certain topics like visitor capacity or erosion on the trails that this plan facilitates us to move forward to provide the protections for the cultural and natural resources and to provide a good visitor experience. Next slide, please. So as Lori had mentioned previously, we have two alternatives, a no action alternative and an action alternative. And this slide basically shows our no action alternative. And no action doesn't mean that we're just going to step back and not allow anything to happen on this. It means we're going to move forward in the conditions that the trails are. We will be providing maintenance for them and keeping them clear, but we're not going to be building new trails, and we're not going to be rerouting new trails. In this, it's basically business as usual. And so on this map, you can see our existing trail system. And basically on this one, we have a series of trails through here, and you can see that there's pretty good connectivity through the many areas of the park, but we would like to increase that. So let's go to the next slide and look at our action alternative. All right, so I would like to start out with this by making it clear what these lines are. So what really jumps out at me at first is the blue lines. And these are new trails, new proposed routes. Next, you're going to see some golden lines, and these are existing trails that we're proposing to reroute, either for environmental or cultural reasons, or to provide for a better visitor experience and or better connectivity in the park. And if you look closely, you can see some purple lines every once in a while. And as I talked about social trails earlier, these are social trails that we're going to formalize, or we're proposing to formalize, and turning them into existing trails, give them the proper maintenance that they need for them to be user-friendly and to protect the environment. And then you can see the dotted lines, and those are the existing trail systems. So again, for me on this map, the blue lines really jump out. And these are going to be our proposed new trails. And I'd like to start with the Lakeshore Trail, which is in basically the center blue line that's right along the lake there. And this is a new trail proposed for Whiskeytown. And really what it's trying to fit a niche that we don't really currently have here in the park. And that's good access and riding for road bikes on a paved system. Sure, we have roads here, but we don't really have bike lanes, and we really haven't catered very well to the road bike community. And with this new trail, we'll be able to provide currently what it's considered to be about 8.3 miles conceptualized. And you can see that it follows the lake shoreline. So this would be a paved trail. It would have multi-lanes in it, 2 lanes probably, and it would have full amenities along it, bathrooms, speed limits, whatever it takes to have this type of trail, paved experience. There's going to be access to the lake from this, and hopefully it fills a need that we really haven't been able to provide in the past up here, and that's access for road bikes in a controlled, safe environment. And this trail is also proposed for hiking, but what is not being proposed for this is equestrian use and the complications that would go along with that. So this is a class 5 high use, high maintenance trail. It would be paved and it would follow the shoreline and give access to the shoreline. If you look to the right lower section, you'll see another big blue line that takes off from the headquarters. And this is the Shasta Divide Trail that we are proposing. Currently, it's not in place. But what this trail will do for us will provide us access, or more access actually, with the Swayze recreation area to our east, which is run by the BLM and very popular. And we would like to add to the experience that people are having on BLM lands and have them be able to come over onto Whiskeytown lands and experience our lands and our trails. So we'd like to add more connectivity to the Swayze trail area. And one way we can do that is by installing the Shasta Divide Trail. And by the way, I've been up on that trail or the proposed route, and it's beautiful. You have sweeping views over the valley and into Lassen, and then you look the other direction, and next thing you know, you're looking down at the lake in Shasta Valley, and it really has phenomenal views up there. Very supportive of that trail going in. The other ones are reroutes. The golden ones are reroutes of existing trails, and as I'd mentioned before, why we're doing this is either to provide for a better user experience, or to reduce erosion or impacts to cultural resources. So the trails that you see in gold exist. We're just going to reroute them and make them less of an erosive problem on the landscape and avoid cultural sites that we like to protect, but still giving good user connectivity through the park. And then if you look hard, you can see some small formalized social trails that we're going to put in. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about these. They're really pretty much already in place. We just don't have them in our trail inventory, and nor do we maintain them. And then, of course, the dotted lines are the existing trails. So that's kind of an overview of the action alternative, the one of the 2 alternatives, no action and the action. Next slide, please. So really, this is a slide showing what I just talked about. And the no action alternative We have a total of 70 miles of trails that we maintain right now. We're not going to add any new trails under the no action alternative. And trail closures will happen. They'll be minor, and they'll be implemented to address safety and environmental and cultural concerns, and opened and closed as needed for that. Now on the right, we have the action alternative, and that is the National Park Service preferred alternative. And what it does is it adds 17 miles of trails to it for a total of 87 miles. New trails, 32 miles including rerouted trails, and it closes 3 miles of trails and increases trail connections. And really it increases those connections within the park, but what we really would like to strive to is also make these connections outside of the park. And as I had mentioned, we're really striving to work with the BLM and make a nice, safe connection from BLM lands into Park Service lands. Next slide, please. So trail implementation. We use something called an API, or Asset Priority Index, to prioritize our trails. So this allows us to understand where we get the biggest bang for the buck for our money. So our high visitation trails are going to rate high on our Asset Priority Index, and which will allow us or make us want to spend more time and money keeping those trails up because they're getting the majority of the use. Whereas some other trails might be only getting a couple hundred visitors, and we don't want to spend a whole lot of time and money on those if they're not going to be used. So the Asset Priority Index API is really more complicated than what I have presented, but that's kind of an overview on it. Now, these changes that we're proposing for these trails, they're quite extensive, and we're not proposing to just come in whole scale and change them all at once. We want to do this over a period of time, maybe the next 10, 15 years. And what we want to do is incremental improvements, and this will ensure our long-term vision and try to help meet our goals that we lay out in this plan. And that's what I have for you today. I want to thank you for your patience, both with this plan and us putting in our proposed new trail system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. And really, that brings us to the most important slide of this presentation, your role and how you can engage with us. Next slide, please. So I just want you to take that slide in, and it's all about how you can participate. This is going to be open through close of business on July 8th. I'm pretty sure that is midnight that it will shut down. It's a database, and so it will take them until then. We'll also take comments in the mail. You can mail them directly to me. Attention, the superintendent here, Whiskeytown Trail Management Plan. The mailing address is also there on the screen. But really, I hope that if you haven't already found your way to the plan, you'll spend the next 2 weeks really doing a deep dive into this plan. Review, comment, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, and we have to consider all of that. So on the site itself, you'll find a written copy of the plan. It includes way more detail than we're able to go into tonight. If you have additional questions, you're welcome to reach out to our project manager, Lori Domler. Her email is there at the bottom of the screen, Lori_Domler@nps.gov. And then really, I just want to reiterate, we as a team want to hear your thoughts, your opinions on these alternatives presented. Please help us make sure that if we missed something, let us know. We will take it under consideration. And then really, I'm going to open it up for Q&A.
Thanks, Josh. So I see that we have a few questions in the question queue here. Let me go up to the top here. So Kathleen asks, how has the draft been revised to account for the car fire? Was environmental review redone? The project site has obviously changed significantly. I can't help but think about the BLM, Reading, and Arcata offices who are restarting their resource management plan process due to the Carr and August fires. I can answer some of that. That question just disappeared. I can go ahead and answer that. So we did do some thoughtful review of the document after the Carr fire. Resources had changed, yes, and I think you are seeing a a proposed action or an action alternative that has a lot of reroutes because some of the soils are more unsustainable, unstable. There's also a lot of debris out there that has been removed or the trails have been rerouted around it. So we also had a change in regulations that we follow. So yeah, you're actually seeing a document that has been rewritten basically since before the fire. We did have a draft before the fire, but this one's been rewritten. Josh, you want to follow up on any of that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We took a deep pause on this planning to really look at the fire and the effects of the fire on planning for trail management. The difference between this plan and some of the BLM RMPs that they're going through, it is for all things that BLM oversees, is my understanding, and that this is really just about trail and trail management. And so the very narrow scope necessarily feel the need to go back out for public scoping. I hope that helps address that question, but we really deeply looked at the impacts between vegetation, the geology, the erosive soils. There's a ton of information in the plan itself that I hope you guys will look at.
Thanks, Josh. Okay, next question from Eric. I see that the Shasta Valley Trail out of Coggins Park is not in either the no action alternative or the action alternative. It's shown on the visitor use chart. This makes the west side inaccessible except for bushwhackers. How could this stretch be restored? I'm going to hand that one over to someone at the park if they'd like to take that.
Brian, are you with us?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at that. So the only connecting feature we have over at this in that neck of the park is a road that leads down from Shasta Valley near the top down to Coggins Park. And that road is highly erosive, it's over steepened, and really we don't get a lot of visitation in that type of that part of the park. Well, I wish the question was still up. So to make that road that exists out there usable, I mean, it is over steepened, and we can't even keep it open for vehicles. In fact, it's been closed since 1998. Sometimes it's on our trail maps and sometimes it's not. But yeah, we don't currently have a trail system worked out there. But on the other hand, we're not talking about taking out the existing feature right now. And again, I wish that question was still up. I don't feel like I fully answered it.
Okay, so we're in the published section. I'm going to another question that was posted earlier from Anonymous. It says, when comparing the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, to the Whiskeytown Park Service, there is a glaring, stark difference between the speed with opening and maintaining trails. It has now been years since the car fire, and still the majority of trails are closed. The environmental impacts and bureaucracy of the local Park Service management needs to be held responsible. Please work with the community and reopen our park. Our trail, hiking, and mountain biking community is here to help and guide you in appropriate, timely reopening. Swayze is a great example of the Trail Alliance and BLM working together. Will you please hear the community and end the negative attitude and responsiveness that the Whiskeytown Park Service has been known for? I'm going to hand that one over to the park.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad that you have asked that. 100%. You know, the one difference that we have is that we had 117 structures just for basic operation of this place that we have to address first before we're getting our trails open. And in saying that, we have roughly, I saw another question, so I'm going to get to that one too. Roughly half of the trails are open at this time. I think it's a little more than 50%. I don't have the exact mileage in front of me, but it is kept up to date on our website, and so you can go there to see that. But rebuilding Whiskeytown is not just the trails after the fire. And applying that same asset priority, our lake-based recreation is the #1 recreation, and that is where we had to start to build out and to start making this place accessible and safe. It's not a great answer. It's not a great comparison. We have continued to keep the trails open that we have open, and we will continue to do that and log them out. We've got probably my napkin estimation is 3 to 5 million standing dead trees, and that when the wind blows, we have trees that fall down, and we have the largest trail crew we've ever had right now in the history of the park, and they're out working on many of these trails that aren't reroutes and things, trying to get additional miles and trails open. We are looking to have the lower half of the Brandy Creek Falls Trail open this probably late summer, early fall, and we're looking to extend up to the falls next spring, hoping to have that open soon. Just that trail alone, our best math and system that we put into place for calculating costs, that trail is about a $600,000 problem that we have to find money for and redirect efforts to make that happen. We have extended offers to people like the Shasta, or not Shasta, but to the Redding Trail Alliance to come help us. We've engaged deeply in the Bigfoot Challenge and trying to make sure that we have trails open and accessible for things like that, and have extended invitations to work with us on this summer to get the Brandy Creek Trail open sooner. I hope that through those efforts, we'll continue to partner and work together.
Thanks, Josh. And I think you also answered Jan's question there of how many miles of the 70 noted as current trails are actually open. Thank you. So next question. I would like to see this plan implemented sooner than 10 to 15 years. I can answer part of that, and then I'm gonna turn it over to the park staff. We would all like to see our plans implemented sooner than 10 to 15 years. It's a complicated process to go through funding, competing for funding with other parks. It's related to the asset priority index that Brian talked about. Most of our plans have a 10 to 15 year shelf life. And yeah, I think that we would all like to see it implemented right away. It's really funding and the number of folks that can be on the ground building trails and maintaining trails that is the challenge. And with that, I'm going to ask the park if they have anything else to add to that.
No, I think that's a great answer, Lori. Just for context on managing a place like Whiskeytown, our operating budget is just over $4 million, and about 80% of that or so goes just directly to staff to keep trash and bathrooms and roads and trails, all of those things operational. So we've redirected millions of dollars in trying to reestablish Whiskeytown and get it open to the public. We will continue to do that. We have a number of internal funding sources that work like grants. One of the best places that we have access to is through fees. So every time somebody purchases a pass or pays for camping fees at Whiskeytown, 80% of those dollars, so 80 cents out of every dollar, stays at Whiskeytown and goes directly to visitor improvement projects. We have directed the lion's share of that back into car fire recovery projects. You can go see those on our website as well, and your fee dollars at work. I hope that you guys will continue to engage with us, and we will move along as quickly as we can. We can do it through partnerships. We can work with others. Some of this is a money problem. Some of it's a people power problem.
Great. Thanks.
They're not problems, they're challenges.
Exactly. Anyone else in park staff have anything else to add to that? Or anyone? Nope. Okay. Next question from Sandy. What is your time frame for starting the Swayze Trail connector? I will turn that over to park staff.
Well, I will say that I suspect it will be high on our priority list to implement. Right now, we have some connection to Swayze through the Princess Ditch Trail, the Mule Mountain area. We have trails that connect down there currently. The trail that Brian discussed and shared, it would be a high priority for us. It's a couple of years out, so as soon as we have a final plan, we will start putting projects together and requesting funding. Some of which we can line up through a variety of sources sooner rather than later, the fee dollars being we have more control over. But it will take us a couple of years. The first point will be to get all of the trails reopened, and we have plans once this is final that we'll put our projects together, and we're looking at summer of 23 to be almost completely open. There's a couple of exceptions, but by 24, everything will be open. Great. And that's way more definitive than I usually am. So,
thanks, Josh. Next question: is it possible to add more trails?
You know, so this is the part of the planning process where we go back out to you guys. If there are things that you would like us to consider, we need to hear about them. Some level of specificity would be great if you needed to go from A to B. You know, really the Eric question that he asked about the backside of Shasta Valley going over to the west. That would be a great thing to comment on, to enter into the record so that we can really take a look at it.
Thanks, Josh. Next question: what happened to the high route trail on Shasta Valley that Jim Milestone championed? I'll hand that over to the park.
You know, it's a great question, and it's one that we really, in doing the reassessment post-fire, took a long look at it. There's a number of challenges with it in that it's really fairly rough terrain. There's unknowns up there in terms of the natural and cultural resources. Putting together all of the surveys for that we felt like the cost of it to build it itself would be an astronomical number. And then the impact, they're a little bit unknown, but the impacts to our natural and cultural resources that we, at this time, pulled it out. Certainly, if it's something people would like to see, commenting on it, requesting it, we have to really then take another look at it.
Great, thank you. Let's see, from David, I'm not clear on what trails electric bikes will be used on. In your plan, is it just paved trails and roads? Administration trails were mentioned. What are those? Brian, would you like to field that one? Or anyone else?
Sure, I'll take a shot at it. So the e-bikes and mountain bikes also will be allowed on all the trails except for a few, and those will be trails that have already been established that are hiking only or things like that. So, for example, the Davis Gulch Trail. We're not going to be allowing any bikes down that. We haven't had bike use there in the past. We don't allow them. Whiskeytown Falls Trail, we don't allow bikes up onto a lot of that, but some parts of it we do. Brandy Creek Falls Trail, we don't allow the bikes up onto, both e-bikes and human-powered bikes. And the Crystal Creek Water Ditch would be the ones that the bikes would not be allowed on. So it's pretty much the same as before, in the fact that we're letting these bikes on all of our trails except for the ones that we mentioned and that I just mentioned, and that were previously not allowed on those trails prior to this plan.
And just to clarify, in the written plan itself, there's a lot more detail. We really go into the differences in the e-bikes. So there's class 1, 2, and 3, if you're familiar with those. The class 1 is pedal assist under 20 miles an hour. If it goes over 20 miles an hour, it stops assisting. Class 2 is similar, but I think stops at 25 miles an hour. And class 3 is at 30 or 35 miles an hour, it stops assisting. And we have called for in this plan that class 3 would not be allowed at all. The class 2 would be on things like administrative roads. And that the class 1 e-bikes really could go wherever other mountain bikes currently go. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian.
I think we allow class 2 on all of them.
Well, please. We can look that up and make sure.
Yeah, we better look that up.
Know it. But it is in the plan. It is spelled out black and white there, what we're proposing.
Great, thank you. So next question, this is from Jan. I can't read the details of the asset priority list. And Jan, just to let you know, there's not an asset priority list. We just have a list of trails. But are the trail use numbers based on post car fire utilization or pre? So I think what you're talking about is the level of visitation on the trails. Is that post or pre car fire? Also, how is utilization determined? Many of us have annual passes and hike without stopping at the visitor center. Anyone at the park want to speak to data collection and when that occurred?
Well, I can answer that because that was one of my projects, and we went in and looked at visitation on our trails in 2016 and 2017. So yes, the numbers that are presented in this are pre-car fire, and as a lot of us know and have experienced, some of our trails are still closed. So definitely the numbers that are showing and our use is not based upon post-fire results.
Okay, and the second part of the question, how is utilization determined? Many of us have annual passes and hike without stopping at the visitor center. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, you've been using trail counters for a while just to record the number of people on trails.
Correct. Basically what we did is put 6 cameras out every week for 1 year on various schedules on the trails to estimate visitation.
Okay. Great, thank you. So next question from Kathleen, is the Forest Service doing anything similar for recreation or trail planning concurrently on the other parts of the National Recreation Area, like Trinity, Lewiston, and Shasta Lakes? Sure if the park knows what your neighbors are doing?
You know, I am not familiar with any current recreation planning efforts that they have going on. I do communicate with some of their staff pretty regularly. I haven't heard they would have a very similar plan effort that if they are, where they have to do public scoping and reach out to the public as well. I'm not familiar with their inner workings. They have a brand new supervisor for the Shasta Trinity, and I suspect that if they are, you'll start to see some changes and more communication soon.
Great, thank you. So Tessa, who's the moderator, just posted some information from the plan. Looks like you went in and cut and pasted some information that was on page 13. Let me clear my throat before I read all this. NPS regulations define an electric bicycle as a 2- or 3-wheeled cycle with fully operable pedals and an electric motor of not more than 750 watts that meets the requirements of one of the following 3 classes. So there's class 1 there that Brian talked about. So electric, well, both Brian and Josh said electric bicycle shall mean a bicycle equipped with a motor that provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling, and that ceases to provide assistance when the bicycle reaches a speed of 20 miles an hour. Class 2 is a bike equipped with a motor that can be used exclusively to propel the bicycle and is not capable of providing assistance when the bicycle reaches 20 miles an hour. And then finally, class 3 is a bike equipped with a motor that provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling, and that ceases to provide assistance when the bicycle reaches a speed of 28 miles per hour. So I think that's more like a moped. The superintendent of Whiskeytown has authorized class 1 and class 2 e-bikes on, number 1, paved and unpaved roads and parking lots that are currently open to the public vehicular traffic, and 2, on administrative roads and trails. Class 3 e-bikes are prohibited because of the potential for exceeding 20 miles an hour with motor assisted power combined with their increased weight. So thank you for that, Tessa.
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Any additional questions? So we have another question. Is the proposed paved trail from Brady Creek to the car powerhouse, does it follow the existing road or does it go down by the shore? Anyone from the park want to field that one?
Hey, Brian, I think you helped map it. Can you tackle it?
Yes, so that paved trail leads, can you read the question again? I'm sorry.
Is the proposed paved trail from Brandy Creek to the car powerhouse, does it follow the existing road or is it down by the shore?
Okay, yeah, it does not follow the existing road. It's down by the shore. There's maybe, a couple hundred yards that follow the existing road when you leave Brandy Creek. And some of it does follow the existing road a little bit going into the car powerhouse area, but really I would say 95% of it will be new trail construction right along the shoreline itself. And it should be built where there's really not going to be a lot of grade change in it. So we're not necessarily going to just follow the shoreline, but we're also going to make an attempt to keep the trail fairly level without a lot of grade changes in it. I hope that answers that question.
Thanks, Brian. We'll just be hanging out here. If there's additional questions, please go ahead and ask us.
Well, while we're waiting for any last questions that might come in, I do want to thank all of you guys for spending the time with us tonight. For sure, I don't want to leave that without being said. It is a lot to ask after you know, working or doing all the things we do, getting ready for dinner, getting ready for tomorrow. I hope that we've given you guys a ton to think about. This is really a high-level overview. I hope you'll really go in, read the plan, and comment. The ways to comment are still up on the slide here through the online forum, the homepage, which is parkplanning.mps.gov/WHIS for Whiskeytown Trails Plan. And there's you can comment here box. It'll take those digitally and add them right to the record. You can also mail them to me, Park Superintendent, or you can send it direct to me as Josh if you want at Whiskeytown. P.O. Box 188, Whiskeytown, California, 96095. I really want to hear from you guys. I'm excited about this, and I hope you guys are too. I see a couple more questions.
Okay, forgive me if this is addressed in the plan, but I'm curious if there is a designated method that is used for trail design, such as are the trails made specifically for multiple types of use, or will certain trails be geared more towards a single use, such as hiking, cycling, or equestrian? Is there a person on the park staff that wants to speak to how you're designing trails?
I certainly can, and maybe Brian, this is for you as well if I get it wrong. But we're following a trail class standards. There's 5 of them, everywhere from bushwhacking to paved multi-lane, you know, mixed use type trails. In our plan, you can go in and see how we're planning to do maintenance of these trails, what the standards are. We've added that as an appendices, just to be completely transparent and open and really codify that for anybody that's interested. Both the class 1 through 5 and the trail standards specific to Whiskeytown. So there are a mix. There are multi-use trails. There are some just for hiking, and there are some for the other uses as well. The cycling and equestrian trails are often overlapping.
You know, I would add that as far as the grade of the trails, we're producing these or designing these trails to be sustainable. And one of the major factors of an unsustainable trail or highly erosive trail is an oversteepened trail. So really our goal on this is to take the existing trails that are oversteepened, highly erosive, and reroute them and get the grade down to really below 15% for short distances. But we really want to get the grades to 10 to 12%. That will make the trails more sustainable, reduce the erosion, and it'll also make the trails more accessible to a lot of people, because some of our trails are really steep and crazy. Salt Gulch would be one of them that we really don't get any visitation on it just because of what the trail is. So really we're not changing how these trails are used. We're not saying like, oh, the Davis Gulch Trail, which traditionally has never had horses or bikes on it. We're not opening that up to horses or bikes. We're remaining the same. We're adding 2 new trails to this, and the Lakeshore Trail is one of them. Now that one will be different because we are not opening that up to horseback riding, but it'll be for hiking and biking. And then the Shasta Valley Trail that connects to Swayze will be a multi-use trail for all user groups. So really, we're not changing how these trails are used or by what segment of the population are using these trails, i.e. the user groups. But we are rerouting them to reduce erosion and to make them more user-friendly.
Thanks, Brian. We have another question. How can we help you start moving things forward on these trails and opening things up?
It's a great question. One of the ways would be to call us and volunteer with our trail crew and help many hands make light work.
Okay, we have another question from Mike. Did you say Brandy Creek Falls did not permit bikes? We have ridden Chimney for many years. Will this trail return?
So my understanding is that only the upper part to the falls is not is non-bike, and I'm not familiar with the Chimney, to be honest with you.
Maybe we can get more clarification from Mike on that. He also says that favorites are Kanaka, which had much investment in the upper trail before the fire. Will Kanaka Trail return? Kanaka, thank you.
It is slated to reopen, yes.
Okay, another question. What is your budget for new trails and trail upgrades?
It's a great question, and there really isn't a budget set for that. Often what we do is apply them as projects. So for the new trails, for instance, they don't exist. So we would put together funding requests. We would ask for the money, and when it comes, we would have a start and end date, a very definitive project, and then it becomes a maintenance issue, and that becomes part of our operational funding. But for projects, we have to put together, like I said, they're very analogous to grant requests, and then we start working on them, and this helps, right? So we get to do big chunks of the compliance section will be done after this plan. We still have some compliance to do on site-specific things, make sure we're not doing harm to our natural and cultural resources, but this really helps streamline that effort and makes it a much smoother thing to implement.
Okay, great. Thanks, Josh. Another question. If you have volunteer opportunities, I encourage you to solicit participation through your social media outlets.
Absolutely. We can start doing that.
Next question. Can you keep Whiskey Creek Group Picnic Area as a boat accessible only area?
So we've kept it as a boat-in area only because there are issues with the bridge and weight capacity getting back to that side of the lake. We are actually starting to look at it now because I think there's some progress towards the bridge. It's a county bridge, the Shasta County road out to Whiskey Creek and beyond. And then when it turns to go to this group site on Whiskey Creek, it becomes Park Service Road. But the bridge itself is a Shasta County road. And so we're working with them pretty closely, trying to figure out when that will come back online. We probably will open it back up to a reservation. And I don't know that it will be boat in only, but we are starting to have those conversations now. It is not part of this plan, but certainly if you have some questions, feel free to reach out to us here at the park. And in fact, my email, you can reach me at Whiskeytown_superintendent, or you can. It's not a hard system to figure out. I'm Josh_HOINES at nps.gov. I meant the email system's not hard to figure out. Most of this stuff is harder than rocket science, by the way.
What additional questions do you all have for us? We have about 20 minutes left. Clarification on any responses to your questions? Feel free to ask.
Russ, do you have any clarity on the chimney?
Yeah. So the mountain biking community over the years has had different names for our trail system, and some of them maybe predate the Park Service: the chimney, the taco stand, the couch. The chimney is the Rich Gulch Trail, which we definitely would not be or not proposing to close off to mountain bikes, which is what we call the Rich Gulch Trail, which is before you get to the really difficult portions of the trail where there's handrails and bridges, etc. So yeah, it's been an ongoing issue for years with different names for different trails, but just to clarify that particular question that someone had on the chimney, which would be Rich Gulch Trail, we're not proposing to close that off to mountain bikes.
So it stays in, and we are planning to reopen it.
Correct. I think with some minor reroutes, but yeah, pretty much as is.
Thank you, Russ.
Okay, let's see. Not really a question, but just want to give you huge props for reaching out to the community and holding this forum. It's great that you're being approachable. This area has a very strong mountain biking and hiking, running community, and we're glad to be able to get back into Whiskeytown.
Well, that's great. I'll be honest, when we started planning this, the virtual format is 100% because of the last year plus with a global pandemic. I would much rather sit down and talk to you guys in person, but not knowing what the future holds, right? It's unwritten. We went ahead and planned this as a virtual thing, and I deeply appreciate that. I think it's an okay forum. We've got a year and a half of practice with it, so we're better than we would have been a year ago. But nothing beats talking one-on-one and getting together in person. But thank you.
Another comment from Mike. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to see faces, learn about the plan. I enjoyed the face-to-face meetings with past superintendents.
I hope as the world changes, we'll get back to those, Mike.
I should add with the order of commenting on the slide, the best way to comment is through the home page, and you can follow the prompts to see how to download the document and then how to make comments on it. That works for us because we can sort your comments and we can understand which ones we need to respond to and which ones are, you know, I like this, this is great, or I hate this. You know, we can't really respond to those, but if someone says, did you consider a reroute over here, or did you assess the impacts on a certain plant or something like that, we can respond to those comments. So the planning homepage is the best place to go and type your comment. The next step would be to mail your comments in. This is particularly relevant for people that don't have access to a computer or yeah, so mailing a comment into the park superintendent to Josh is the next step. And then finally, you can email comments to me, but we would prefer the home page just because we can have all the comments in there and sort them. And we can be able to answer them more quickly and address the plan with your comments that way. Okay, let's see. Have a question regarding the trail that's going to go from the visitor center to what appears to be maybe Wintu off Swayze. Are there already pre-existing parts of that trail?
I'll answer that. There's a non-formal trail that passes through that area. We don't maintain it. We don't design it. It's really a social trail, which I talked about earlier, and a trail that basically visitors had established. And yeah, so there are pre-existing parts of that trail. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to utilize the pre-existing parts of that trail because parts of that trail were oversteepened and fairly erosive and eroding. And so when we propose this new route, we're definitely going to take some of the grade out of it, but we still want to get up there and get those great views.
Thanks, Brian. We have another question from David. You might have answered this already, but there's a trail off the road to Brandy Creek, just past the road to Sheep Camp that goes over the Peltier Road and has become very eroded over the decades. Do you mention earlier that it would be repaired? Did you mention earlier that it would be repaired?
I'm at a loss of what trail we're talking about here. Russ, do you understand what trail that is?
I do. It's Salt Creek Trail. That's one of the really oversteepened trails that we're planning on maintaining that connection between those 2 points, but rerouting to make it a less steepened grade and more sustainable.
Okay, so it will be repaired. Is that what you're saying, Russ?
Rerouted to be less steepened and more sustainable. The current alignment won't be repaired under this plan, just because it's certainly not sustainable. It's so steep. And I know there are extreme mountain bikers out there that really like that super steep section on that trail, but it's not something that we can maintain.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Russ. Jan says, just to clarify, we won't see any existing trails reopened for at least a couple of years.
Great Great question, Jan, and I will tackle that one. Right now we're just slightly over 50% of our trails, I believe, are open, both in numbers and mileage. We have plans. We're working on the lower two sections of the Brandy Creek Trail right now as we speak. It'll be open later this summer, early fall. We've got some of the trails that are connecting to it that we will move on to in that process. And we've got a number of those that are not reroutes, that are just us putting them back online. Those are happening right now as we speak. You're going to start to see more and more of our existing trails opened. Where there are reroutes, we're going to work to incorporate those sooner rather than later, so that they can be done in one swoop, so that we don't have to open, close. So, but we are working hard right now. Every day we're getting closer to opening more trails.
Thanks, Josh. We have another question, or it's a comment, really. Thank you for such a great presentation. We really like your plan a lot.
Well, again, tell your friends and family, direct them to the plan, read it, see it, make sure that if we didn't get to it tonight, it's in the plan. I want to hear from you guys.
Any additional questions? Does anyone want us to go back to a slide or check something out? If we went by it quickly and you wanted to see something on it?
We have a new question.
Great. From David, why weren't PSAs sent to environmental groups such as Sierra Club, California Native Plant Society, Shasta Chapter, Wintu, Audubon, and Shasta Environmental Alliance, all regular users of the trails?
I don't know what the PSA means in this statement.
Is it public service announcement, maybe?
I mean, we have an extensive list of user groups, and we did a mass press release. It's been run in the media. We've done it on social media multiple times over the last few weeks, or a couple of weeks, and we'll continue to do so. We are reaching out to everyone. I helped craft a list of all the groups I was aware of, to try and make sure that leadership or Facebook pages or phone numbers or emails were blitzed when that press release went out. It's quite the extensive list.
So probably sounds like we could add a few more to the list and make sure that they have the website.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the question. So Anonymous writes, catchword for the evening, sustainable, also known as steep and fun downhill equals non-sustainable. So I think that's just more of a comment than anything else. And being a mountain biker myself, I like downhills, but I don't like sliding down hills with all the soil and rocks coming down with me. And yeah, that isn't very sustainable. But some people really love steep downhills.
I mean, I would certainly encourage you, Anonymous, to craft that into a statement that we can consider, right? That having an experience for all levels of mountain bike riders.
So we have another comment. Joining late, will this meeting be posted for later review?
It will. It's being recorded. We're going to post that, I believe, on our YouTube page. Is it going YouTube page or is it going into the Pepsi park planning site? Do you know, Lori?
I don't know that. I'm going to ask Tessa to respond to that one.
The recording will be posted to YouTube, and then from there we can post it to whatever park sites we'd like to.
Thanks, Tessa. We have about 4 minutes left. If there's any additional questions or comments?
With the final closing 2 minutes here, I would just say, again, thank you to you guys that spend your evening with us, whether you got to hear the whole thing or not. We will publish this and it will be up shortly. I think probably not tonight because we've got to go home and eat ourselves. Eat dinner ourselves, not eat ourselves. That would be weird. But I do believe the way I started the presentation tonight that Whiskeytown is a gem. I think we are a unit of the National Park Service, and that's something to be really proud of and excited about, and something that we can all, I hope, rally around as a community. That designation, there's not many of them, 423 to date. And that puts us on equal footing with places like Yosemite and Yellowstone. And I think, having been here for just a short time, just over 2 years, and even though it's all in car fire, I think this place is spectacular. I see why you guys love it. I'm glad that you guys take the time to comment on it, because that to me shows that you love it probably more than I do. But just know I do. I adore this place. So with that, I would say, thank you. We're listening, and I don't know if there's any final technical things.
No, I don't think so. if there aren't any additional questions, we'll be signing off. So again, Jade has dropped the website in the question column there, and please read through the document and offer up your questions and comments. Yeah, that's it, Josh.
You guys enjoy dinner. Thank you for participating with us tonight.